Well, this is interesting because I'm watching. Well, hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest here. Hope you had a great Easter. We're going to talk about, and I played basketball since it's the Final Four this weekend. I was not good at basketball, but hey, it's always a story around here. We're 193 stories in, so we got to stretch a little. All right, let's do this. 193. We got feedback over there on that computer, on that screen. We are good. We have the right logo up. All right, here we go. Let's go here to here. And here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 193 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com. No fooling, even though we're coming to you here on April Fool's Day. And man, I am so disappointed. This year, we got busy with Easter and all the stuff going on. We had some cheerleading stuff that we were trying to wrap up with this season because my wife is vice president of the booster club for the cheerleaders at the high school. I dropped the ball. We didn't have an April Fool's show this year. We had a straight regular trip report on today's episode. Oh, it bugs me because I love getting you guys on April Fool's, but I'll get you. It'll happen. So I'm sorry. I know we've had some good ones in the past. My favorite is the Pet Friends Hotel back about 5-6 years ago. But we will get you. Don't worry. So sleep with one eye open. You've escaped me today. But I'm so distraught that I didn't check the calendar. It snuck up on me this year. Like I'm worried about the eclipse coming up here a week from today, and Mallory's got a cheerleading banquet that same day. I'm like, how did the cheerleader parents not realize it's the same day as the eclipse? And I'm trying to go down to the Boot Heel in Missouri to see that. And I got to get back. That's also the podcast recording day. So we got to do the recording next week, not on Monday, but on Tuesday. So I can go to the banquet and eat all the fancy food with all the cheerleading parents. It's a mess next week. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And of course, we had everybody over for Easter yesterday. By the way, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's been crazy, but I've been over the last 24 hours, I've been just beside myself that I didn't have an episode of this April Fool's Day to get you guys because that's what I do. And anyway, that's where we are. So, hey, happy Monday, by the way. We're a day early. We usually do these shows on Tuesday, but I've been doing them on Monday if I have time, and I do. So here we are. Hope you had a great Easter weekend and you got to spend some time with friends and family. The weather here in the Midwest has been awesome, but expecting some big boomers tonight here in St. Charles, Missouri, just west of St. Louis. If you're looking on a map, the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios right along the Missouri River here in St. Charles County. Expecting those, when you look at those maps by the National Weather Service, it's one of those days where if you look at kind of like a target, we're right kind of in the bullseye for the hail, for the possible tornadoes, for the high winds. So we're just kind of waiting to see what goodness we'll get this evening. So they first said it was going to happen this morning, that it was this afternoon. Now they're saying tonight. But if you know me from the show from the past 16 years, I'm a weather nut. I love weather. Now, I don't want my house to get blown down like the Three Little Pigs. I don't want to have hail damage. I don't want to have to get a new roof. I don't want to have to get our cars fixed because we had a huge hailstorm around us about 2 weeks ago. And how it missed our house, I have no idea because we had baseball-sized hail all around us, and all the cities within like a mile of us had huge hail damage. I mean, no kidding, baseball-sized hail. It did not hit our subdivision. Like our subdivision was spared, but everywhere around us, because we had relatives over, like I said, yesterday for Easter, and they all came over with dented cars. And they're like, "What?" Everybody's, comparing their war stories of, well, how much damage it didn't hail here at all. Like, "Why did it not hail here? We live 6 minutes from you down the highway." I'm like, "I know, it was wild. It just did not hail." We had lightning, we had winds, but it just never it's so weird how Mother Nature does that, which means that makes me super nervous for tonight because, of course, um, it's one of those things like you can't escape Father Time. You're not gonna escape Mother Nature. Mother Nature is, like, laughing that I'm even talking about this right now because, the law of averages does catch up with you, but it's one of those things. I do like weather. It gives you something to monitor. If I wouldn't have been a teacher, I always said I wanted to be a baseball player. If I wouldn't have been a baseball player, I would have loved to have been a meteorologist on TV. I would have loved to deliver the weather to it wouldn't even had to been a big town, it wouldn't have to be like on TV for the city of St. Louis. I'd have loved to have been like a small town meteorologist, like a Fort Smith, Arkansas, or like a Poplar Bluff, Missouri, or like an Independence, Missouri, or Springfield, Missouri, something like that. I would have loved to have been that person that took the responsibility of trying to keep a small town safe. I would have really enjoyed that, to use scientific knowledge, but also been the person, because I've always kind of had felt like you have this pseudo relationship with your local weather person where over a course of years, as you watch your local channel, because I think we all adopt our, whatever your local affiliate is, whether it's your NBC, CBS, Fox channel, whatever it is, you kind of watch your and maybe it's just because I'm older. I don't know if even younger people do this, but we watch the news every night at 9 o'clock. And we used to watch our KMOV, which was our CBS affiliate. Now we've been watching our Fox affiliate just because they do a lot more local news than our CBS does anymore. And also they've come out to a lot of our high school events more than the CBS does. So we've seen them at our high school doing stuff. So we tend to watch them more now. But we just feel like those weather people like are taking care of us. And so it's like you have this pseudo relationship. So I thought that'd be a cool job to have. And it's, I'm 50 now and I still wonder, like, when I grew up, it'd have been cool to be a weather person. I'd have loved to have done that. And I wonder if you guys do that kind of too. Like that'd have been a cool job. I think I'd had a good skill set for that because I did study a lot of science, and it's still to this day, anytime, we're living in the time where, because we still kind of bounce back and forth between the two, between the CBS local news and the Fox local news. We'll kind of watch both. And the CBS, though, I don't know, like about 6 months ago, they got a rebranding, and now everything they'll say, be careful. It's Monday, right? Friday could be a first alert weather day for high winds. And they get you so amped up. I mean, dude, it's 4 days away, and they're warning you that it could be a first alert weather day. But be careful, it could be for high winds. I mean, but I'm a weather nerd, so dude, they get my blood flowing. I'm like, dude, Friday could be wild. Friday could be a big storm day. I mean, it's like they're playing into my like, it's like giving me the first hit of a drug or something. Because then all week I'm checking my phone, like, is Friday going to be crazy storms? And half the time it doesn't pan out. It goes north of us, south of us. They always say in St. Louis, the arch like it keeps the storms away. It's like this big deterrent, especially when I was a teacher, right? They'd always say this about snowstorms. They'd build you up for a week. Okay, we're going to get this big snowstorm. It's going to come. It's going to come right up Interstate 44 from Springfield, Missouri, because the big snowstorms always come from the southwest. If they're coming from the north, they never have the moisture. But if they're coming from the south, they have the moisture from the Gulf. They're going to give you deep snow. So they get you all amped up as a teacher. And then it would come to St. Louis, miss us. And we'd be like, dude, we were going to have 3 snow days. And then like you wake up in the morning, you'd have like no snow. You'd still see the grass. You'd be like, oh, dude, they played us. They told us for a week we are going to have snow and no snow. But anyway, I don't even know why I'm like this. But here's the thing. I'm kind of amped up because I just had leftover Easter food for lunch. So I'm pretty happy. But here's another thing I want to bring up before I get to the feedback and to today's topic. One of the things I like about the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios from when we used to have it, and when we started, I was in Mallory's toy room at our old house. Now we're at our new house, which is out in St. Charles, Missouri, about 20 miles west of where we used to be. And now I've kind of moved into Paige's old room since she is up in Chicago now. And she was home for the weekend. It was great to see her, but she flew back today because she had a press conference this morning. So I have her old bedroom. And I'll tell you what, the thing I love about this new studio, one is that I can close the door, which is not closed right now because Riley is sleeping in the door jamb and I didn't want to wake her up. I didn't have the heart. So I hope she doesn't bark right now. She's sleeping. The show's so great. She didn't wake up to listen to it, but it has a gigantic window here to my left. And I love this because I can see our lake in our subdivision right between the two houses here in our backyard, and they finally turned on the fountain that's in the middle of the lake. So it's kind of soothing to see that. But one of the things when I was a kid, I've talked about this radio station before, Mike in the Midwest. I was a nerd and I listened to talk radio. And the biggest talk radio station in St. Louis was called 1120 KMOX. And it still is. And they carry the Cardinals games. And as a kid, I would listen to KMOX all the time. And all they had was like sports and news and stuff like that. And at the top of the hour, that every hour, 24 hours a day, they would carry 6 minutes at the top of the hour of CBS national news, syndicated national news. They'd go to CBS and it would do the national news. And then after 6 minutes, it would do about 4 minutes of local news from a guy like downtown St. Louis. He'd do the news. And then after that would be local news or local shows. At 10 o'clock, Monday through Friday, there was this guy named Jim White. And he would do a show from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Why I was up this late as a kid, I have no idea. But I always listened to him in my bed because my grandpa gave me an old beat up AM radio. And his name was Jim White. He went by the Big Bumper. I'll have to do a whole show. I think I did a show on Jim White, but if I didn't, I'll have to do one. Anyway, he always opened his show, and he was a cranky old guy, but he had this show. He was legendary in St. Louis, and he would just take calls for 4 hours. People would just call in and talk to Jim White, the Big Bumper, but he always opened his show. He'd say, something like, you're listening to Jim White here on KMOX. Welcome. They'd be like 10:15 p.m. right after the local news. And he'd say, I'm coming to you live from the dimly lit studios right in the shadows of the arch in St. Louis, Missouri. But I loved how he always set the scene by he was coming to you live from the dimly lit studios in KMOX. And he really was, because my dad ended up working for 103.3, which was the FM side of KMOX, this station. And I asked my dad, I said, do you ever run into Jim White? He's like, try not to, because he's mean. And he really was mean. But I'm like, well, like, I love listening to this guy, like, is he's, because he was right at the end of his career. And I was like, does he really like have a dimly lit studio? He's like, yeah, he uses he broadcasts from like a production studio. It's not even the main studio where everybody else does their shows. It's all fancy and everything. He uses a production studio in like a back corner, and he leaves the lights off for 4 hours from 10 to 2 a.m. He's like, it's wild. He's like, he's a weirdo, but he was legendary. Like he was just kind of a cranky old guy, but I mean, he took calls, he would argue with people. And if you said, like, if you hung up and you said, have a good night, he'd say, don't tell me what kind of night to have. I'll have any kind of night I want. That's what he would say. And but it was awesome. I mean, you had to be careful with him because he was like super smart and he would battle wits with people. But anyway, I should do a whole show about Jim White. He was legendary. He's passed on since, but yeah, I just loved that stuff as a kid. Anyway, I was such a nerd. All right, so this weekend had the family over. We had Easter dinner yesterday. Paige came home. It was great having her here. She flew in on Thursday night. Had to fly home early this morning. Pam, God bless her, got up at 3 a.m. to take her to the airport. She had a press conference this morning at 9. They introduced a new men's basketball coach. She had to be there. So it's great when you have your whole family. Like, my heart was full, I'll be honest. When you have both your daughters under the same house for 72, 80 hours, it's a wonderful thing. And it was a blessing. It was the Easter thing. It was my happy time. I couldn't have asked for more. So it's great having her here. She's back. I guess she'll be back hopefully for the cruise this summer and get to see her, and that'd be a blessing too. So just had a wonderful time spending some time with Paige and Mallory and Pam and extended. Got my in-laws and everybody came over yesterday. We had ham and turkey and lots of deviled eggs. I've had two more today. I got to slow down on those things. So hope you're doing well. Let's hit the feedback from last week. I talked about Coach Ron, how the stuff that he taught me as a speed skater from the time I was 4 till the time I was in college when I would skate with him. He was a quiet guy. He's still around, and he was a coach by example, basically. As I thought about this more this week, he didn't really yell. He didn't really have to scream or anything. He didn't really even he wasn't like a direct coach. He was more of like a lead by example guy. You just watched him And if you just watched what Ron did, you could learn so much. And it wasn't just for me in the speed skating aspect. He owned the skating rink. I managed the skating rink. So I'd watch how he'd interact with guests, the clientele that would come in our skating rink, the parents that were, of the kids that were having birthday parties. I would, we ran hockey leagues. We worked with vendors, and I got to see how he interacted with all these different kind of folks that passed through his business. And he was always fair. He was always respectful. He was always client driven. And that was kind of, as a 15, 14, 16, 17, 18, 20-year-old kid, you don't realize that you're learning these things, but you are. And he was always just not really he was a shrewd business guy, I would say, but he was never like a businessman. Like he never seemed like he was slick. He just seemed like he was fair. He was just a nice guy that always wanted to make sure that the deal was fair for everybody. He wanted everybody to come out right in the transaction. He wanted you to have a good time at a skating rink. He didn't want to charge you too much, but it was a business. But he just wanted everybody to have a great time. And that's, I respected that. But when you're a speed skater, he didn't want you to not live up to your potential when you're on his team. He wanted you to leave giving 100%. He didn't want you to leave anything on the floor, and that was really cool. So anyway, John says, I was definitely not athletic at all growing up and don't really have stories of being coached along those lines, but thinking about being coached through a different lens, I've learned a lot about financial planning by listening to a local finance radio show for a few years. I also have gained a lot of Disney planning knowledge through the BOGP. I feel like the four, like you four, have been coaching us all on how to improve our trips. I think all of our friends who mentioned a first trip after we first went ended up with multi-page emails with pointers. Well, thank you. I don't really think of us as coaches. I mean, I guess we could be, but you know, I think, to me, a coach is one of the highest titles somebody could ever be given. But again, I'm coming at things from a different perspective. I am somebody who grew up as an athlete, and coaches are at the super high level for me because of what they did for me throughout my life. Coaches, teachers, they're super high because I mean, it's my slant on things. We all have our perspective on things because of where, you know, our journey through life, right? I mean, I spent a lot of time with teachers. I was a teacher. Um, and that means a lot to me. I mean, our podcast could be about coaching through better, coaching people up for better trips. And I've never thought about it that way, but I will moving forward. And I'll try to always make sure that what we say is hopefully worth that high praise, because that means a lot to me, John. So thank you for that. That really hits home. Thank you. All right. Deanna says, oh no, wait, Trisha says, it just refreshed. I played select soccer for years, and my head coach, Coach Willie, was a saint. He was a great coach and put up with the drama shenanigans of a bunch of girls. We were a dedicated group and won a fair amount of tournaments. I'm still in touch with a handful of the ladies 20 years later. That is awesome, because the coach, oh my God, coaches that coach girls teams, especially at that certain age, from like 8 to maybe 18, they put up, they are saints. Those athletes though are amazing athletes, but there can be a lot of girl drama sometimes. Not that guys don't have drama, but girls can have more. And but I just love watching girls sports like that, because they can just shine. And that's cool that you're part of that, Trisha, that you won all that and that you're still in touch. I think that's what sports can bring you. Sports can bring you that camaraderie that lasts a lifetime. I've talked about my friend Steve so many times here on the show, that passed away about 10 years ago. He was killed by a drunk driver. He was a PE teacher. And we played softball together when we were adults, and we were playing in a league, and he got killed. We were playing on a Thursday night, and it happened on a Saturday night. Saw him for the last time 3 days before he was killed. And, he was my catcher. I was the pitcher all through Little League, and we were inseparable in the summers as kids and in middle school. He couldn't make grades in high school, so he wasn't my catcher in high school, but that was the only thing that kept us apart, because we were always Growing up, we were 40 feet apart in like little league, and then as they that's how far the pitching rubber was from home plate. Then as we got older, it was 47 feet apart. Then we were 60 foot 6 inches apart. That was the big distance from the pitcher's mound to the plate. But we were great friends, and that camaraderie just it stays with you your whole lifetime. And I'm still friends with some of my guys that I play baseball with. So yeah, sports are pretty cool, and I think coaches are they're the driving force behind that. Deanna also says, I was not an athlete. I did competitive accounting. No, really, I did, she says. My teacher recruited me for the team and would find me after school to make sure I did the practice tests. She would even cook for us so we wouldn't be hungry after school. That's a good coach. She took us to state, for real, y'all. Competitive accounting state championships is a thing 2 years in a row. She absolutely influenced my life as I'm still doing accounting 18 years later. And she even made us all an individually a scrapbook with pictures of our trips and a sweet letter. The letter says, in high school, my words to my students are, you've got what it takes to make it to state. Now you're stepping into a very competitive world, and my words to you are, you've got what it takes to be a success in life. Like you said, this I didn't appreciate this as much at 18 years old, but now, wow, what a great mentor. I need to send her a letter with my new business card. Got promoted to partner this year since she built that foundation. I mean, how cool is that? A coach took the time not only to recruit and to push and to nurture. I mean, that's a coach that nurtured. I mean, physically nurtured by making meals, and then to encourage through making a scrapbook, and to take the time to say we're going to do this, and to encourage. I mean, that is remarkable. And look where Deanna's gone. It has changed the trajectory of her life and her family's life. Because think about that. Because of the opportunities, her family has changed. That is what coaches do. They change people in communities. They change families for generate. I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. I love coaches. Coaches are so unsung so many times. I know that you see bad ones on social media. You see them on the news sometimes because there's bad eggs in every profession. I 100% know that. But there's also teachers and coaches and, police officers and doctors and everybody that are just going about their business every day, that never care about if their horn gets tooted, and just doing the right thing all the time. And shout out to them. It's a remarkable thing. Thank you for sharing these stories. And if you still have one, you didn't get it in, hey, drop a couple lines here, because give me goosebumps for next week. Give us all goosebumps. This is good stuff. I always want this show to be the good stuff. It's just a quick little hit that you're like, wow, that's cool. Patreon.com/BRGS podcast. Take a few seconds, drop it in. We need some more of this good stuff right here on the air. Okay, today's topic, real quick. Not going to be long because it's my basketball memories and I don't have a ton of them. But it's the Final Four, people. We got the Final Four this weekend coming up. What do we got? We got Purdue. We have Alabama. Roll Tide, baby. We got UConn, and we got North Carolina State. Two of those teams will probably be in the finals. I would guess Purdue and UConn will probably play in the finals next Monday night, but you never know, because Cinderella does visit this tournament sometimes, and Cinderella has been rolling with North Carolina State. So who knows? But there's a couple of buzzsaws in Purdue and UConn, so we'll see. But here's the thing. I like to play basketball as a kid because, again, I was tall. The thing is, when you're a tall kid, when you get to be like 9 or 10 and you're tall, people want you to play basketball. So I was asked to play on this pretty decent team to start out when I was probably 10 years old. And I got on this team that was super good. I just remember the coach's name was Les Lyles, and it was like an all-star team. And this was my first time ever really playing basketball on a good team. And we went around St. Louis and played in all these tournaments and stuff. But here's the deal. And I just throw this out there because I was a baseball player and I was good at baseball. I was not good at basketball. I mean, I was tall and I was average at best at basketball, but I was tall. So I got on this team. But here's the thing, I did not play, and I just like putting the story out there because you're not good at everything. I didn't play a whole lot on this team, but I remember that this team was so good, and my dad made me stick it out for the entire season, but I rarely got into the games because this coach would only play the starters, and I was not the starter, and so I would get in very rarely, and I remember one game that we won, and I am not lying, I think we were like 10. We won a game when I was 10 years old. Now, imagine the fights that would happen if this happened today. We won a game 110 to 8. 110 to 8. I got to play the last 4 minutes of that game. Why would you keep the starters in if you're going to win a game 110 to 8? So we played that game. I got to play the last 4 minutes, I think. So anyway, that season was not fun. So that was the only season I played on this all-star team for that guy. My dad after that said, "You know what? We're going to have fun with playing basketball. If you want to play basketball, cool." So he coached, I got some of my friends together from school, from middle school, I think. This maybe 6th grade because I went to a private Christian school. And we got enough guys. I think actually I got some of my baseball buddies, and we just decided we're going to play for the Corey League, which was like little league. We got like 8 guys together, got a team together in the Corey League. And my dad coached just with my grandpa. Now, not my grandpa I talk about all the time, my dad's dad. It was my mom's dad. So it was my dad's father-in-law because he was a big basketball kind of grumpy old guy, but he knew basketball. So like my dad was coaching with his father-in-law. It was really weird. But we played and we had a good time in this kind of average. It wasn't a select league. It wasn't like nowadays with like AAU or anything like that. But we did all right. And we played and we had a good time. And of course, I got to play all the time because we were in an average league and we only had like 8 guys. And we had a good time with that. I just remember, we got the uniforms were issued by the Corey League, so they were just real crappy uniforms. And I remember like we had like 2 number 3s, so I had to like iron on a second 3 because I was like 33 for like Larry Bird back in the day. It was off centered. We looked terrible. We looked like the Bad News Bears of basketball. We just had a good time playing ball. And I just remember that, it was one of those things like it was something to do in the wintertime for baseball players. Because back then, while nowadays baseball players probably play year round in different indoor facilities, I was pitching. I was one of the few that was pitching in the wintertime because my dad helped build an indoor batting cage, which is actually across the street from where we live. Now, this was all farm fields back when I was a kid, but my dad helped build the first indoor batting cage in the whole area of St. Louis, right across from where we lived, out in this farm field, which is still there. It's called Dick's Batting Cage right out here. And it was so far in the country, but now it's all houses out here. And, but I used to come out here and my dad kind of traded labor so that I could pitch and hit in this place in the wintertime, and he helped build it. Anyway, so I would do that, but I like playing basketball. And you know where this all started was we didn't have a ton of money. So, you're always finding stuff in the wintertime. And my dad, I've talked about this many times. My dad was a construction worker. So until he switched over to working in radio. And so in the wintertime, obviously, once it got super cold, my dad didn't work a lot. So we're always looking for things to do that weren't really expensive. One of the things that we always had were resident cards for our city in the city of Florissant. And our city had 2 civic centers, like the where you go that had like the gymnasium, the indoor, one of them had an indoor swimming pool. They both had like game rooms, had like pool tables and so forth, where the like youth plays, the youth could hang out. But I loved in the wintertime, I'd take my resident card. My parents would just drop me off at the Civic Center, and you could just walk in, and it was totally free for the residents. You just dropped your resident card at the desk as you walked in. They would you could check out a basketball, and you could shoot hoops all day for free. And then, you turn the basketball back in, they give you a resident card, and you'd leave. So that was something you could do all day for free. It didn't cost a dime because you're a resident, your taxes are paying for it. So that's one of the things I would do all the time. I just go to the rec center, the civic center there, and just shoot baskets all the time. So that is one of the things that, I'm kind of one of those people. If you follow me on Instagram or social media, you see I get on the treadmill every morning. I like to put in the work for practice. I like that with speed skating. I like that when I was a baseball player. I like the process. And so with basketball, I liked going to the gym. I like shooting a bunch of free throws. I like shooting three-pointers. I like posting up and taking little, practicing moves. So I love doing that kind of stuff. I like I just like the process. And so I'd always be at the gym. I'd always be at the Civic Center in the winter. It was something to do. But baseball was my passion. It was just something to do though when it was cold, when there was no baseball going on. So you might think, did you play in high school? I didn't play in high school, really. I mean, I tried out as a freshman. I made the team, but here's the thing. During basketball tryouts, my freshman year, I did meet one of my best friends during high school, during tryouts. His name was Corey, and his mom ended up being my boss at the Gifted Center. Bev was my boss, and that was his mom. And Corey ended up being my best friend through high school. We ran around and got in so much trouble together. So eventually, when Bev was my boss at the Gifted Center when I was a teacher, she let me get away with murder because I grew up in her house basically all through high school. So she knew me like a son, but she knew all my secrets because we went to prom, we double dated and went to prom together and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I met him because he had moved. He was a country boy, had moved from Central Illinois to Hazelwood Central here in St. Louis. And dude, the guy was good at basketball and he was taller than me. And we're a couple of the only white guys trying out for the basketball team. And so, like we were lucky because we were tall, but he was taller than me and he was way better basketball player. So we both made it. But the thing was, like, they ran us every day 2 miles before tryouts, just trying to weed people out on this cinder track. And they'd drag us to the middle school because there weren't enough gyms at our high school. And it was raining and it was like late October. It was cold. And I got mono during practice, during the tryouts, and I ended up being in the hospital for like 7 days, right at the end of tryouts. I was in the hospital because it turned into something. My liver swelled. It was just brutal. I was so sick. I missed 17 days of school in a row my freshman year. And so I couldn't play basketball that year. I ended up just kind of practicing with the team because by the time I recovered, it was like almost like by the time I was cleared to play, it was like December. And they're like, you cannot take a shot to your liver. Like it'd be bad. So I just wanted to be clear for baseball. Like that was my thing. I was like, we moved so I could play baseball at this high school. So I was just like, dude, I just got to be ready for baseball in the spring. But I practiced with the team and so forth. But yeah, after that, I didn't play basketball in high school. I was like, it's cool because the writing was on the wall. You're not going to be a basketball player, but it was fun. And the story with this is it's okay to have a sport where you're not good at. Did I have fun with it? Yeah, I had fun to play basketball, and I like the process. Am I a good basketball player? No, I'm not. I was a decent baseball player. I enjoyed playing hockey. I enjoyed playing soccer. But the thing is, I think kids nowadays think they have to be like, the best of every sport that they play. And I don't think that's the case at all. I enjoyed playing basketball and I wasn't great at it, but I still had fun and I still had memories. I had a lot of friends at the high school that I still went to the basketball games. I went and watched Corey. He played varsity 3 years after that. And we had a good time going to the basketball games, seeing him play, um, cheering him on. I had lots of friends on the team that you don't have to be the best, on every sport to enjoy the sport. And I think that's lost on a lot of kids nowadays. I don't know. That's just one of the things I want to say. So I enjoyed basketball. I enjoyed watching it. My daughter makes a living in the sport of basketball, but it's funny because I think she probably understands the game probably at a higher level than I do now because that's her 24/7. And I love that about her, that she's that invested. That's a cool thing for a dad. That is a cool thing that she is just that she has that level of involvement with a sport and in-depth knowledge of a sport. She was home for like, these past 3 days, and all we did was watch these basketball games, men and women in the NCAA tournament. And the comments she would make, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm watching with a coach. It's crazy because like I still see like I was watching with like little Paige when she was 7. And now it's like I'm watching with an NCAA coach, like, oh man, she needs to box out at the elbow, and like she talks about recruiting and NIL deals. I'm like, oh my, who are you? It's great though, but I'm just like, this is wild. So I just want to throw that out there. Tell your kids, if you have kids, tell them just enjoy the sport. If you're not the best at it, it's okay. It's okay. Take up golf. Have fun with it. You don't have to be Tiger Woods. You don't have to be. Go bowling. Play basketball. Play a team sport. And don't worry about being the best. Make the memories, make friends, and just have fun with it. I know there's so much pressure in being the best, but you don't have to be. I know it's so hard, but really, I had a good time, and I was not that great at basketball. I was just tall, but I wasn't tall like the guy in Purdue. I wasn't 7'4". All right. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope your basketball teams all win that you're rooting for. And we'll get back together next week. And guess what? I hope to see you over on the Discord. We're having a great time over there. So thanks for hanging out with me over there. That's 24/7. And it is so much fun. BeOurGuestPodcast.com/Discord. We'll have the shows this week, recording this afternoon. So come and join us. I love you guys. You guys take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We'll see you real soon.